What is it that keeps us in check, my friend? And now, when I say that, I'm more or less talking about what keeps us staying in the lines, what prevents us from crossing boundaries. Now, I'm talking about this both for story purposes, but also in real life. But then we can often get kind of, it's kind of interesting when you start talking about staying within the lines because we almost always go for, but I want to break out of the lines, I want to break through boundaries and so forth. So then there's both good and bad that can come from staying in the lines. That's kind of the key is that it's sort of a gray area is that there are some things we do want to break boundaries on, but other times there are boundaries that we should probably keep in place. But in essence, it can be almost a thing of preventing action. Sometimes someone might be actually preventing a good action because they don't want to rock the boat, they want to stay in the lines. Whereas other times it might be a preventative action from someone who definitely would do some harm. But I can think of basically two major kind of divisions in what keeps us in check. And those are morals and consequences. Now, for morals, it's basically a choice. Basically a choice of saying this is right, this is wrong. And so it's basically what a character does with that. In a way, we can think of kind of the class example of with great power comes great responsibility, and a hero is actually actively holding back their true strength. They pull their punches, basically. And then it's kind of like the hero who doesn't destroy their enemies, pretty much. So it's like they just take them to prison. But they actually have more power than most of their enemies. So it's sort of an interesting dynamic because they're making the choice that this is the right choice to make. I won't go past this bar. I will hold back because otherwise things would get destroyed or so forth, and this is the right choice in a sense. Again, that kind of delves into consequences a bit, but more on that later. But we can basically sum up morals as basically what we wouldn't do and what we would do. Because then we have to think about both. Because not only are there things we won't do, like we won't lie or steal, stuff like that, but also there are things we would do, like we would keep doing the right actions, we would keep doing the right thing. But then, when we think about the moral choice, we have to realize that it is actually specific to the character or the person who's making that choice. And not everybody has the same morals. Again, we tend to get into things where other cultures have completely foreign moral systems to our own. So that creates that bit of culture shock and can be especially interesting in stories. But in kind of a down to earth example, we can think of a person who's not going to rat out his friends even if they've done something wrong. But it's like they've done something terribly wrong, but he's not a snitch. So it's kind of like that thing where it's like, okay, you aren't going to rat out the friend, but they were clearly causing other people harm. So it's kind of like, what is the actual right choice? Again, the morality depends on the person. So in turn, we can then look at consequences, which can basically be summed up by one of the laws of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For every action we take, there is going to be a consequence involved. So in absence of like the moral, or when there's different morals, it is consequences that can keep people in check. Basically, what they don't want to happen to themselves. Think of basically someone who isn't going to do something because of social breakdown or shame that would come in hand. Like a person, like how we don't often speak what's on our mind, we might think it, but we know that it's either going to hurt someone or or they won't like it and get mad at us. So we don't want to say it. Again, some people have no filter, and sometimes that is needed, but then sometimes it's like, don't really want to. There is time and place for certain things. But also, what don't we want to happen to others? We can think of a person who's under like an evil regime, who doesn't want harm to come to their family, so they aren't doing anything about the regime. They even if they had an opportunity to, they won't do it to protect their family. And then that can kind of get into a moral thing where it's like you have these choices between right things, but the consequences for one is basically that you end up not doing the other. So it's something to really consider and think about. And in turn, we can think of what do we want to keep happening. It's like some people are choosing the carrot, and again, rewarding good behavior with something generally encourages good behavior, but again, it can be sort of a thing where it's like, is it more for the consequence, or is it actually training to actually do good? Because what happens once the reward is taken away? So in turn, this can kind of help us with writing both heroes and villains because of that whole different mindset in that what they choose both morally and also what keeps them in check from the consequences, what wouldn't they do, and what do they do once they remove the consequences from their path, in a sense. So it just sort of kind of demonstrates what you can do character-wise because we are actually in the minds of characters in certain stories. But the thing is that this also is something we should keep in mind in the real world as well. Now, we can't dive into other people's minds and their true motivations for doing what they do. But we can kind of think in the sense of what is actually keeping this person in check from letting the power go to their head, in a sense. This is especially true when giving someone a position of authority. So again, it can be kind of like that character thing. What is this person's character? What are their morals in a situation? How have they presented themselves? Or in turn, if we don't really know that moral foundation, we can think of what are the consequences that keep this person in check? Like what is set up that this person would get in trouble if they don't do what they're supposed to do? And also we can ask ourselves, are there positions that actually should have more consequences, or are there places where there need to be consequences involved? So it's just something to really think about. And anyway, these are my thoughts on this matter. Why not share yours in the comments below? And if you enjoyed this video, you can like and share it so others may enjoy as well. Anyway, I'm Jonah, and you've been watching Lionsman Media, where we celebrate stories and the lessons of them. Thank you for listening to my musings. Talk to you later, and have a great rest of your day.